Hello YouTubers. I want to start out this video by letting you know there are two major issues with the car. The second issue is a result of the first issue. So the first issue, as the description shows in the video, I have a DMTL micro vent minor leak, whatever. Anyway, a 2A14. And that led to another issue where the car would not start, a 2F44. And we're going to cover both. But the first part of this video is going to be all about the DMTL pump process and the vent and smoke tests and stuff like that. If you want to jump to the punchline of this thing is that the problem was a loose fuel tank pump or transfer pump, whatever one is on the driver's side. That's the punchline. And I'll try to put a chapter where you can go to that and we can hear the discussion around what happened there. But also, I wanted to make sure that you know that all the tools and the parts I used and bought are going to pop up throughout the course of the video, and I'll also put them in a link below in the description. So let's jump to the video. Hello YouTubers. In this video, I'm going to cover a project I just completed on the car and cover with you some lessons that I've learned along the way that may help you with this problem. I'm not planning on taking the car apart and recreating the issue for you, but I'm going to walk you through the issue as best I can. I will pop up the error codes. I will pop up the parts I bought. At the bottom in the description, I'm going to put all the parts I bought, where I bought them from, and links to them so that if you want to go the route I did and use the parts I did, that's what you'll have. Anyway, again, this project started really since I bought the car. I've had an on again, off again, check engine light pop up, a error code 2A14. I'll pop it up on the screen right now. A DMTL pump micro leak detected. I think I'm telling you that correct. And that was the issue. That issue has been dogging me since I bought the car. And so I want to cover with you all the steps I've taken and in the order in which I took them, just so that you can kind of get an idea if you want to do this without major equipment and without sending it to an outside service company to get it resolved. Because I will tell you, I bet if I would have sent this out to BMW to get the problem resolved, I probably would have a $2,000 bill. Not because of $2,000 worth of parts. I probably only have 250 bucks in parts in this. But I have days of labor. Days. I mean, I'm not talking about it took a Saturday afternoon. I'm talking about, I bet I have 50 plus hours of my own time dedicated to finding and fixing this problem. And if BMW were going to charge you for that amount of time to find this problem, it would be a nightmare. So I'm going to show you how I did it without going to BMW, and you can learn from this because there's a lot of lessons learned from me. First lesson learned from me that I think you need to take on if you have a car like this, a BMW of this vintage, whether it's a SUV or a car or a roadster, I don't care. I would buy ISTA, the Integrated Service Technician Application. I think that's what it's called, but it's ISTA, I-S-T-A. I will pop it up on the screen so that you can see it. If you got a car like this, you need to buy that software and learn how to use the software because it can work for you. I think a lot of people move on from these cars because of the complications relating to the computer and what the car can and cannot do. But if you can learn that software and can program, you hit buttons, but you're not designing a program with this thing. You're not designing a car with this thing. You're telling a computer to tell the car to do something with this program. You just got to learn where these functions exist. You can find them all over the internet and have at it trying to fix the problem yourself. So ISTA cost me probably $35. Well worth the software. And then I had to buy a cable that connected from the computer into the car. The cable probably cost me another $30. Well worth the money. If you're going to have a car like this and you don't mind tinkering on things yourself, buy the software, buy the cable, and hook it to a laptop, and you'll be off and running on this thing. Now, let me also say this. This is not easy to set up. There are videos that will walk you through how to set this thing up. And once you get it set up, it's reliable. Works like a champ. And you can get years of enjoyment out of it trying to work on your cars down the road. Okay, that was a huge lesson learned because I did not have this software when I first bought the car, obviously. And I did not have this problem when I first started this project, obviously, because I didn't know how far this problem went. So if I would have started with ISTA, it would have saved me a lot of time up front. So how could it have saved me time? My first purchase was a $40 gas cap, because the first thing they're going to tell you to do on the internet with a DMTL micro leak detected is to replace the gas cap. And you want to buy, evidently, the gas cap with the blue gasket. The one that was on the car had a green gasket. So I replaced it with the blue one, cleaned off the surface really good so that the mating surfaces were there. There's no trash or debris. Put it in there, reset the code on the car with my Carly connected car. I'll show you what that is on the screen. I'll pop that up, and the reason I use that part is because it can do simple things. It can reset lights, service lights, check engine lights. It can do programming of functions on the car, like if I want the DRL to not be the halo rings and I want it to be the fog lights, well, it'll do it. If I want to lock the car and the mirrors fold, Carly connected car can do that. But some of the functions that I needed to really perform the service work on this car live within ISTA and not Carly. Both have different use cases. ISTA is for deep dive of technical problems with the car. And that's what you need. Anyway, so the first problem led me down to a gas cap, $30, $40. Did not fix the issue. I reset the light. Probably a week or so later, check engine light came back on. And I did some more Googling on it and came up with a result that seemed to be, well, if it's not the gas cap, it's the DMTL pump. And so the DMTL pump lives here, and its purpose is to check for leaks and recirculate any gas vapors from the tank to the engine and burn those fumes in the intake. That's the purpose of the DMTL pump. There's some good videos that walk you through how this thing works. I'm not going to cover that because people have already done a great job with that. So the pump got replaced. And when I took the pump off, I checked all the connections up in there. There are hoses and pipes and connections all throughout here relating to the pump, because not only is there a pump, there is a charcoal canister and there is a filter. And then there are the associated pipes that go around the car from front to back to the gas tank that lives underneath these seats. Anyway, there's lots of stuff going on. I replaced the DMTL pump, and that was my first biggest expense on the car, and that pump probably cost me $140. It is a OEM part. I try to live within the OEM world. Don't always do it, but I try to, and that I did. And that did not fix my issue. Another week or so later, the check engine light came back on, read the code, same thing, 2A14 came back. At this point, I'm panicking because I've bought a lemon. This problem's non-fixable. The issues that 99% of Google's results show could be the potential problem is not the problem on this car. It does not have a bad pump. It does not have a bad gas cap. And so I go up here and I do an inspection. And I recommend you do the same thing because on this car, where's my light? It had a purge valve, this guy right here, that was tie strapped to this hose. So it was just at the whims of wind and rain or whatever, dangling around in the car. And I'm thinking, well, that device probably should be secured somehow, not just tie strapped up with a zip tie, which is what it was, zip tied to a hose. It should probably be mounted somewhere. So I ordered a replacement part. And all this stuff I'm gonna put on the video down in the description. So if you wanna look where all the parts and pieces that I bought, everything's in the description. So I bought that part, made all the connections, and it mounts to that metal bracket. Nice and secure. I don't know if you can see it, but it pokes through that rubber grommet. That's where it goes, and I'm thinking that's a plausible problem. I could see how if it's dangling in the wind, that could cause a loose connection somehow, but that was not my issue. Now I'm really panicking at this point because what else could it be? These are the possible sources that have valves that open and close. Gas cap opens and closes, right? The fuel or the DMTL pump opens and closes. This purge valve opens and closes. So I'm thinking the only thing I can do now is buy a smoke machine. That's what everybody says. Get a smoke machine and you'll find the issue. So I buy a smoke machine. I'll put that part up on the screen. So I buy a smoke machine. I disconnect the system from, hang on, thought I was done with the light, from right here. Oops. Disconnect the connection there. Insert your smoke machine going that direction. You want it to go toward the gas tank, not toward the engine. So disconnect that guy, pull it out, insert your smoke machine, and cut it on. And so I did that. Here's what happened. As soon as I get the smoke machine, I could see smoke coming out. I insert it into the connection there. I'm looking all over the car for a leak. First start up here thinking maybe something's here is the problem. Nope. I look underneath the car between here and the back. I see no smoke coming out anywhere. I pull the thing out. Yep, it's still got smoke coming out of it. Put it back in. I go to this side. No smoke coming out. So where do I want to see smoke? Well, I want to see smoke coming out this because I'm hoping it's the gas cap. No smoke coming out. Mind you, just so you know, at this point, when I decided to go through with the smoke machine, I decided I was going to take the car apart. So I took the wheel off, the wheel liner out, and I got access to the DMTL pump again. So I look under there, I see no smoke. There's a connection at the DMTL pump that goes to the tank, or to the gas neck. It goes to the DMTL pump. There's a connection that goes to the charcoal canister, and there's a connection that goes to the filter. And as soon as I get to the filter, smoke billowing out. And I'm thinking, that's it. The problem is the canister filter, which I'll show you here on this picture. I go up here and I unplug the smoke machine. Smoke stops back there. I put the smoke machine back in. Smoke's coming back out. I know I found the problem, but it looks beyond a micro leak. It looks like a full-on leak because it's coming out as fast as that's putting it in. It's coming out back here. However, this is where YouTube failed me, and this is where Google search failed me, and where people who post these things fail you. Evidently, you need to close the DMTL pump. You need to activate the circuit on the DMTL pump valve so that when you insert the smoke machine, closing the valve disconnects the canister. That means now the smoke has nowhere to go outside that canister, outside that filter. It has to show a leak somewhere else because I've closed the valve here, and between it and the front, there are no open valves. But I did not know that. But that's where ISTA came in. ISTA, I was able to tell ISTA, go to the fuel tank vent valve and close the valve. Some people can can disconnect wire number 3. It's a green wire, not disconnected. Ground the green wire onto the DMTL pump to the car, the green wire to the car, and it will close the valve for you. Or, like I did, I went into ISTA and told ISTA to close the valve. So ISTA closed the valve, no smoke coming out. Where is the smoke? Could not find the smoke. The next place I did was I decided to take off all the trays under both sides of the car while it's in the air, and no smoke. The problem is not here or anything to the back of the car. And then it led me to the gas pump. This car is a third row seat car. Just so you're aware, for those of you with third row seat car, you're in store for a nightmare if it's your fuel pump. In order to get this seat out, you got to unbolt 2 screws, 3 screws back here. And I recommend taking the seats out. Take this one out. This is a 60/30, so split folding. Take the seat out of the car completely. And the reason why am I pointing this part out? Because most of these videos talk about just pull the bottom and lift it off. And that's not how this works in this car. You got to take this thing out. And I bet this seat, this 130% seat, probably weighs 125 pounds. It's heavy. Not a problem, but got it out. That side, however, the larger side, is another story. Way too heavy. I bet it weighs 250 pounds. There's a lot of metal underneath this thing. There's a lot of weight to it. So what I did was I put down the third row seat, laid it flat. This seat's gone. And then I just folded this down and folded it back on top of the third row seat. It's too heavy to get out of the car, too cumbersome. These doors, this is as wide as these doors open. So just fold it back. That exposes the gas pump and the transfer pump. All right, so now I've got that ready. I turn back on my smoke machine. There's no leaks under the car. There's no cut off the valve on the DMTL pump. No smoke's coming out of it. No smoke's coming out of the gas cap. No smoke's coming out from underneath the hood or anywhere in between. I get back here and I just know it's going to be one of these pumps. It's either going to be the pump or the transfer pump. But it wasn't. That was not my issue. There is no smoke coming out. If the smoke's going into the system and smoke's not coming out of it, where is it going? If you got these smoke machines, they talk about the smoke will show you where it is. In this case, the smoke machine failed me. It did not reveal the problem. I could be in the very decimal point percentile of people where the smoke machine doesn't help. I'm one of those guys. This did not fix my problem. It had no bearing on my problem whatsoever. So I reverted to ISTA again. And in ISTA is a procedure to turn on the DMTL pump, run a test on the DMTL pump. And when I do that, I could hear on the transfer pump, I think I'm telling you right, this is the transfer pump side that pumps gas between the two chambers, and that's the fuel pump side. Either way, the problem's on this side, was on my side. I could hear poop, 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 like air being pumped into the chamber, into the gas tank. Makes sense. I just told the DMTL pump to turn on, pump an air into this, looking for a leak. I could hear that noise. So then I go back to the smoke machine, turn on the smoke machine, cut off the DMTL pump, and I could hear the same pump, 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 pump. That is not the problem. The fact that it's making noise, these are my lessons learned. That does not reveal the problem. That's normal. But what I ended up doing, I'm going to tell you the best thing I had to fixing this problem is this guy right here. I'll show you the issue, the part that is the issue. And I want you to see this part, and as you're looking at it, you do see the separation from side to side, meaning there's a gap in between the ring. In that ring goes around the fuel gas tank, and it binds the pump to the gas tank. And so when I'm looking at my gas tank and I'm looking at that ring, it's not all the way together. It's out. Not a whole lot, probably like that. It was out that far. I go to look on videos and I'm looking at the other side. Well, that other side looks normal. The other side looks the same way. This side looks the same way. But when I push on the fuel pump, I can hear, I don't know, I could hear noises, normal noises, like I'm pushing on a fuel pump. I go to push that side and I don't hear anything. There is no noise. It's like it's the fuel pump, the O-ring on that side are all one symbiont thing. They were together. This side seemed like the fuel pump, it didn't, but it seemed like it would have some sort of disconnect. It wasn't as rigid connection as the other side. So I go get that tool I just showed you, and I try to tighten this hose clamp that goes around that ring. And the purpose of this hose clamp, it sits around the ring, which goes around the gas pump, and you tighten it down, and it closes. Its purpose is to close that gap on that part that I showed you. It's meant to close that gap. So as you tighten the gap, close the gap, and tighten this thing down, it is making a more secure connection. So I go to tighten this thing down, and then this thing gives way. It just starts like the teeth have lost its bite or something, and that's it. So I'm thinking I'm screwed. Because if you look at this hose clamp, this thing is probably 1/4 inch wide. If you go to any Home Depot or whatever, you're gonna probably find those are at least 3/16 to 3/8. No, 3/16 to 1/2 inch. Anyway, they're much wider than this O-ring or this band clamp. So this one's lost its bite. I go get another one, and I'll show you the part that I bought, Home Depot, and I think it was $5. I go to tighten it, and with that tool that I just showed you, it is such a tight place. If you watch anybody else's video on how to replace a fuel pump, you're going to find that is a nightmare problem to get to. Nightmare. Hard to get any kind of tool in there to make an effective bite onto the clamp. That tool I have is the best tool I could find that could do the job. So anyway, I tighten and I tighten and I tighten, and I decided I'm going all in. I'm going to bring that gap that you saw on that clamp all the way together. They're going to kiss one another one way or the other. I'm not leaving a gap. This thing's going to be tight. I'm hoping I don't do anything bad to the gas tank, but oh well, I'm committed. This thing is going to touch, and so that's what I do. If you people who may watch this video and have worked on these gas pumps in the past know that clamp, and with where this thing is, it does not want to go much tighter than that. But I'm going to make it go. I'm going to make them kiss, and that's just what had to happen. So anyway, the issue ended up being that clamp was not tight enough. After I've got that piece to touch, I could find that this thing was very rigid. I could not hear like there was some movement, or could not detect that there was some movement in my hand with this thing. As I pushed on it, it felt like that side. I was pushing on the gas tank, the whole damn thing, the whole darn thing, like I was that side. Whereas before, I felt like this gas pump was a little bit disconnected from the gas tank. Tightening that fixed my problem. Now, why didn't the smoke machine show a leak? I have zero idea, but there was no leak. No smoke coming out of this whatsoever. I have no idea why that. You would think it would do that, but it did not show any smoke. Moral of the story, tighten down everything. Those two things that I showed you with the band clamp, and give that a shot first. So that revealed another problem subsequent to this, because obviously when you're doing work like this, I'm disconnecting the battery and reconnecting the battery for all these steps. Anytime I'm messing with fuel, I'm cutting off I'm disconnecting the battery, no matter what. The battery got connected and reconnected, connected and reconnected over a period of days, multiple times. So now I've got the leak test passed. I try to start the car, and the car gives me another code. I'll show you that code now. Battery, you do work like this over multiple days with things disconnected and reconnected and disconnected. The possibility exists that the comfort access system side of the car, the locking side of the car, stops communicating with the engine side of the car. And that's important because when you unlock the car and insert the key with that, with the key, the system, the engine immobilizer kicks in, and it's not going to talk. It's not going to allow that key to crank this car. And so you got to tell the system to talk, and I'll walk you through that process. Go to vehicle management, service functions, and then you'll expand powertrain, and then expand engine electronics, and then you will see the DME CAS piece. Once here, you're going to click on the top option, DME CAS interface, and display. I'm not going to walk back through this because I don't want to foobar this car, but this is what you're going to have to do. So what you're going to do is start value adjustment. Number 2, you're going to start that. And once you do that, the car should learn, or it should reset the communications between the comfort access system and the engine. So that's what you're going to have to click on. Only then will you be allowed to crank the car. Now, let me also say this part too. I've not seen this mentioned on any other video as it relates to unhooking a battery. I shouldn't say any of the videos I've seen. Nobody's talked about this being part of the process after disconnecting the battery. This may or may not happen to you. What I'm trying to help you with is, if it does happen, here's where you got to go to reset it or get it redone. That, or get somebody else with a code reader that has this functionality that can do it for you. So YouTubers, the car's all buttoned up, everything's done. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a link to other people's videos regarding the 2F44 error. That way you can watch how they reset theirs. I'm afraid to mess with mine because it's not a problem and I don't want there to be a future problem. So I'll just link to another video on that. So anyway, YouTubers, if you like the video, please like the video.